Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Alright, welcome to the next episode of Amateur Hour. Cody Courts, the president of the Southeast Texas Flag Football League, also now known as SETX. Here with me is the vice president of Southeast Texas Flag Football League, Troy Maddox.
I'm right here.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to wrap up the tournament we had last weekend. Football is coming with a special Game of Thrones theme. And we'll talk about the days and how they went, how hot it was, how cool all the teams were, you know, stuff like that. So, all right, Troy, we'll talk about Saturday first. There were, 12 games on Saturday?
Oh yes, there were 12 games. There were a lot of games. Was it 12? I don't even remember. I think yeah. It was so long I can't remember how many games it was. But starting at 9 or 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning and ending almost 11:30 midnight. It was a long day.
Yeah, I think it cooled off to around 92 at 9 or 10 p.m. So I felt like y'all got it okay back then. But what did you pick up from day one? What did you learn about the teams?
Well, what I noticed was this tournament was the best teams put together for a tournament. There were no weak links. There were no teams that shouldn't have been involved in this tournament. Every team was really good, or at least been good in the past, and and are good now. So it was a very stacked tournament. Any one of these teams could have won the tournament, I think. So it was very fun to see that. There was no walkover teams. No games were easily contested. Everything seemed like it was could have played here and there, changed a lot of the games. So that's what I noticed. That and even the teams that were traveling a long ways, having to deal with sitting out in the heat all day long, still played good all day long, and it was fun just to see the competition out there.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was our best tournament, especially when considering the quality of the teams. I thought it was pretty telling that two of the last three champions of our league, the Herd and the Showstoppers, went combined 0-8 on Saturday. So that was telling because the Showstoppers are a really good team, and they had their quarterback that normally plays with them, Jacob Dilt's playing. They had a good lineup, but they went 0-4 because there was so much talent, so many organized, good teams out there. The Jack boys looked awesome on day one. I don't think they ever get tired. And the Bayou City Cowboys showed up. They were fun to play with. They looked pretty good in day one. The Wolfpack, who were just thrown together, like last week or a week before last, looked a lot better than you would think of a team that just gets put out there, and that's mostly due to Johnny Acevedo. I'll give him a shout out there because he got those guys together, and I thought they found themselves a good little quarterback, Jacob Harris, and I thought they did real well for a team that's not played together before.
And what was good about it was there's so many different styles of football being played. It wasn't the same little thing. It was fun to see these teams come down and have a plan, have an offense, and just I don't know what the difference is, if it's game plan or if it's just continuity with being together, playing together for a long time. But it just brings a different style of football to our area, and it's fun to watch and watch them play against our guys in the area and see how the games go. And I just enjoyed watching the Jack boys and the 409 boys play, and Jack boys and the Bayou City Cowboys that one was kind of lopsided, but it was still fun to watch these types of teams go at each other. So it was just exciting to watch the whole day.
Yeah, well, that like you said, there's a lot of different styles. The Jack boys can kill you speed. Texan flag football with Matt Cakel at quarterback and his two sons playing with him. I know he has a third son, but he wasn't there for it. They kill you with just smart play and knowing exactly where everyone is all the time. And our team, the Herd, gets killed by anything. So
That's sad too. That wasn't us. Just a short while ago, a short year and a half ago. That wasn't us.
Yeah, it turns out that drinking a bunch of beer and the most exercise people getting is mowing grass is not conducive to flag football winning. But
Mowing grass on a riding lawnmower.
well, yeah, who's going to mow grass? Actually, I think that paying other people to mow grass might even be the preferred method. But
That's the most activity. Huh?
But anyway, so that's kind of how day one went. You know, it was really long and really hot, but I thought the teams all played well and everybody had a good attitude about them. And then day two occurred. So in day two, we had far fewer games, and there were a lot of factors that I thought played into who won the thing. But I'll let you have your take on it first. So what did you think about the elimination round?
Well, it was a shorter day, working wise, but when you're playing, it still felt like it was a long day, just because you're sore from playing 3 games the day before, and you're just wore out. One game takes a lot out of you. Jack boys played the Herd, and it was a close game at the half, and then the Jack boys just pulled away just with athleticism and speed. Squad Elite and Bayou City Cowboys. Bayou City Cowboys took them down. That one was actually close to the. That one was actually right.
It's a
down
1
to the
point
wire,
game.
yeah.
It was a 1
That
point
one-
game
they
and it
won
ended
that
on the
one.
last play.
And that was a fun game to watch them put up something with a lot of injuries on that team and still win that game. Texan flag football beat Showstoppers pretty handily, but that's just a good football team right there. And the Showstoppers had some new guys they're trying out, and they weren't on the same page the whole game. Well, most of the tournament they weren't on the same page, but it was they're still breaking some things in. And then the 409 boys beat the Wolf Pack. That one was also. Was that one what was the score of that game? Do we remember the score of that game?
No.
Okay, it was. I can't remember that one. Everything's a blur right now, so it was tough to remember.
So I could have written it down and had it here for you, but it is written down somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere, but it's whatever. It was the 409 boys won that game. But what got me about day two is there seemed to be some more not bad, not calls that were contested a lot. Not that there were calls on the field by referees that were bad calls, I would say, just calls that got contested with rules from other leagues blending over into our league. I think we had some confusion there. So before I have anything to say about that, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, as far as the calls and the refereeing.
Well, just all together. The day
Oh,
and then
the day
before
itself.
we get into the final 2 rounds.
Well, how about I'll do the next round and then you can, because I think this will be a perfect opportunity for you to speak on what you want to speak
Sounds
on.
good.
Okay. So the Jack Boys were set to take on the Bayou City Cowboys at 3 p.m., also known as part of the day when the sun actually touches the earth. But the Bayou City Cowboys had a lot of injuries, and they didn't have enough guys to field it. So, that was the Heat taking somebody out. So the Jack Boys got to advance, and then TexanFlagFootball.com played the 409 Boys. During that game, it was pretty close, especially at the end of the first half. There was a controversial ending to the first half, which resulted in a multitude of discussions and actually fairly polite words being exchanged. But I'll go ahead and segue you into that. So go ahead. You can tell us what happened.
Well, the play ended with a downed player. The flag never got pulled. The referee blew it dead because they had stopped. And then the whoever had the ball for, I think it was the Texan flag football player, threw the ball out of bounds, saying he wanted to stop the clock by throwing the ball out of bounds. And I don't know how that makes any sense in any league of football, no matter what level you play. You can't stop the clock ever by just throwing the ball out of bounds. If you could do that, everybody would do that, but nobody ever does it because you can't do it. It's illegal. You can't just throw a football out of bounds and stop the clock. If you could, then why don't you just do it all the time? Because you can't. It's not a rule. Some people are trying to snake around rules or say that they're exploiting a bad rule, which I don't even know how you would even think that's even a rule to try to get away with. So the call was right on the field. You can't stop a clock by throwing the ball out of bounds. I don't care what league you play in. That's not a real rule.
Okay, so because I like to get stuff right, and I want our league to get everything as right as we can. I went and did some research on that, and most leagues, or in fact any pro or college league of note, have rules against doing things with the clock that are kind of outside of the spirit of the game. And of course, those rules have to get very wordy and specific. But the NCAA has a rule that, and it's under the unfair clock tactics penalty. It says that ball carrier may hand or pass the ball backward at any time except to throw the ball intentionally out of bounds to conserve time. The penalty for breaking the rule is 5 yards from the spot of the foul, also a loss of down. The clock is started when the ball is ready to play. So that's what the NCAA has to say about it, and I think that's about the most fair rule. And in our league, since no referee spots the ball ready to play, the way we spot the ball ready to play is we don't allow time for people to retrieve the ball after their play. If they want to throw it 10 yards out of bounds, we don't give them time. We don't stop the clock to allow for them to go get their ball. That's never been how we've done things, and that's not how we're going to start doing them now. So if I guess when we want to get into the rule book at some point, maybe throw in that rule too to make it a 5-yard penalty, the clock's not going to stop, because just like any other offensive penalty, if you're trying to, you can't very well, when your team's down, and let's say you're going downfield for a pass, it's the last play of the game, obviously the play's not working out for you, and there are 4 seconds left, so you intentionally commit a holding call because a penalty would normally stop the clock. Well, it's not going to stop the clock. They're not going to let the clock stop and let you have another play because you've got a penalty. In the NFL, I know they do a 10-second runoff. I'm not sure if they do a 10-second runoff in the NCAA or not, but I have a problem believing that committing yourself a penalty could get yourself another timeout, basically. So that's kind of where I fall on that. And as far as, I'll speak on the flip side of that whole thing. Our referee called someone down because he said he gave himself up. Now, our referee mostly refs tackle football, and this is the very first thing we've done this year, not to make excuses for the guy, but, I've known him for a long time. He's a really good referee, and, he saw that the play was stopped, so he blew his whistle. It was not an inadvertent whistle to me at that point because that's what the referee called. Now, either way, the team, the Texan flag football still won, so it worked out. But I didn't want anyone to think that we're trying to get around things. Also, during the game, as my role is, the president or the person running the tournament, I'm not going to overstep my referee to go and change something in the middle of the game or change a referee. That, to me, takes away a lot of integrity and trust in the referees. So that's why we have that catch-all in our rule book. The referee's call on the field stays as it is. The referee has the ultimate say when the game's being played, and if we don't want that person to ref again, then we don't have to use them. But during that game, during any of our games, if our referee calls something, unless it's a complete misunderstanding on the referee's part and they tell me that, then we're not going to go replay in downs because a perfect call wasn't made. That's not how any football is played anywhere, and that's not how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and they kept trying to make a point of saying it's a dead ball. Well, it's flag football. The only dead balls are on incomplete passes or penalties, or if you run yourself out of bounds when the clock's going. There's a dead ball, but you can't just fumble. There's no fumbles, so you can't have a dead ball on a fumble. You can't throw a ball out of bounds to cause a dead ball. That's just not part of it. It's not a dead ball. It's just the clock just keeps running because there's no fumbles, there's no out of bounds unless you run yourself out of bounds or throw an incomplete pass out of bounds or just throw an incomplete pass.
Right. A fumble is not. I heard someone saying a fumble is a dead ball. A fumble's not a dead ball. A fumble is simply the conclusion of a play, as if the person had his flag pulled at that spot. So, all right. Well, let's get him past that.
I just wanted to
I know
make
you
that
want to talk
point.
to it. The championship game was awesome. Suffice to say, TexanFlagFootball.com went past the 409 boys. They kind of pulled away in the second half pretty easily. And the championship was the Jack boys against TexanFlagFootball.com. That game was awesome. TexanFlagFootball.com pulled out early. They had some really great defensive plays. And Matt Cagle is unbelievable at quarterback. he is unreal to me. I don't know how he sees the field so well, and how he know, because he's told me, this is a team they put together of different guys. This is their regular team. I don't understand how they know where everyone's going to be constantly. It's unreal to me. And they were just, I mean, they were dominating earlier in that game. I think they went up by 3 scores like within the first 10 or 15 minutes. It was great.
Yeah, what I liked about their play on the field, they were up 20-2 at one point. And what I liked about their play was they are fast. They're closers on defense. They pull flags, just amazing, which is one of the biggest things in flag football. But what gets me is Matt will play quarterback. His other 2 sons will come play quarterback, and they all play at a different speed, but they run the same offense at those different speeds, and it's so amazing to watch them move the ball around, just take a step, and then take the snap, on taking a step over, or making a snap on the run and getting yourself, to outflank the rusher. It's just amazing how they can do that, and they're all fast. They all move around so fast. When you can equal the speed of the Jack Boys, or even make them look slow on the field, that's impressive. And they did that. And just especially the last play, the touchdown that put him up, where he took the snap, and I don't know his name, his name that took the snap and then ran, just took off by everybody and ran and scored the game-winning touchdown from about 30 yards out.
That would be Jordan.
Okay. Well, and that was, that just showed their team speed. Showed that. Well, that's hard to do against the Jack Boys, to just run by people and get in the end zone like that.
The Jack Boys had a great little comeback though, and it was tied at one point. I remember at the end of the game, and they had a chance. It was tied actually, and then TexasFlagFootball.com drove down and scored with 4 seconds left, which put them up. So, man, it was great, and those guys are so classy. We really appreciated them driving all the way over here to play in our tournament. They were just awesome. They have great attitudes about them. They have great teamwork. They were really just a pleasure to be around. So I appreciate Matt's sons, Rhaegar and Viserys. I hope next time he can bring Drogon. And I just appreciate those guys. I'm glad that they got to make it, and I'm glad that such a classy team was able to win our tournament.
And also congratulations to those other guys out there that will remain nameless on the team that won the championship.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
But no, they all did great. They were awesome at every single position. They just play like a real team, even though, like I said, Matt told me that's not their regular team. They play like a team. They played like a team more than anybody else that was there.
Yeah, and that was a fun championship game. Even the last play where LeBrie takes the ball and runs and jumps over people. He almost jumped over everybody to score. I was like, oh my God, this game's going to keep going. It's never going to stop. But they got him about the 20-yard line. So it was it was fun. That was a just intense game back and forth. Back 2 tournaments in a row. Those teams, we came down to basically the last play of the game to crown the champion.
Yeah, well, we appreciate everyone, from our board members to my wonderful mother, for sitting out there all day, every day in the hot sun and helping us with the thing. So we enjoyed it, and we'll be back in the next segment with the top 3 according to me and me. Without a break. So.
They're very long breaks too. We got a lot of paid advertisers.
Yeah. So anyway, this segment is part 2 of top 3 according to me and me. This week we're going to do the top 3 players from the AFC. The top 3 players from each team of the AFC East. AFC East.
According to me
and me. So, Troy, I'll let you go first with the Patriots.
The New England Patriots. Well, number 1, obviously, Tom Brady. The best quarterback ever. The end. Next is Drew Bledsoe, whose middle name is McQueen, which I think is pretty funny,
that's
actually.
Pretty good, yeah.
looking at what he did, he led them to a Super Bowl back in the early '90s against the Packers. Um, Threw for 30,000 yards. That's a pretty good number, and basically opened the door for Brady, like we mentioned last time. Bledsoe opened the door for Romo. He also opened the door for Brady. So two of the best quarterbacks ever, Bledsoe was there for.
Yeah,
So,
the best two things Drew Bledsoe ever did in his career were get hurt so that Tom Brady could play, and then do that again so that Romo could play.
That's yes.
So good job, Drew.
Yeah.
Drew could come play in our league and play quarterback for us for a little while and get hurt, and we'd find the perfect. Well, I say that Matt Wilson will always be my perfect quarterback, no matter how.
Let's not give away any of our game plans. So
Okay. All right. So.
But yeah, Bledsoe. I've always just kind of liked Bledsoe. He also has his own winery now that he makes wine. So.
Well, maybe
double back.
Maybe he'll drown in some wine, and the next guy will have the best wine company in the world.
And then my number 3, the guy was only there for 3.5 years, but scored 50 touchdowns in those 3.5 years. Randy Moss, guy that could probably be on two, will be on two teams in this list of mine. So Brady, Bledsoe, and Randy Moss, New England Patriots.
Okay. My 3, of course, I'll start with Tom Brady, just because he's really, to me, the best quarterback that's ever played the game, and don't think that you could really make your list of the top 3 players of a team if you didn't include the guy that was best ever.
Yeah,
so
simple enough.
And my second pick, just to make things a little bit interesting, is Gronkowski, because I feel like he's the second most important person on the Patriots offense when they've been the very best. They've had Moss as a good receiver. I'm sorry, he's an excellent receiver, but they haven't had any other receivers that I thought were anything that wasn't replaceable. I think Gronkowski changes the game for them, and I know he hasn't played forever, and I know he's injury prone, but they're a completely different team when he plays. I think he might be the difference between a Super Bowl, so he's my second guy. My third guy is Adam Vinatieri, because they had so many close games with him, and he came out in the snow and whatever else, and who doesn't want to have a list with a kicker on it every now and then? So there you go.
You gotta have a kicker.
He was so important that the team, their rival, was like, you know what? We'll go take their kicker.
Their kicker. We'll take their
Yes.
kicker.
And now we'll move on to the Bills.
The Buffalo Bills.
So many good players to choose from over their history of billing.
Well, before we get to the Bills, going back to New England, without not talking about the players, but if you think back on how bad the franchise was for so long, there weren't that many great ones throughout history anyway, so it's kind of hard to, or not that hard to narrow down some of the best players in Patriots history when they've only won so much in the last 10 or 15 years. So it doesn't show a lot of history. With their,
Yeah, I would say that was one of the easier teams to do. It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right, so the Bills. I'll go first on this one. First off on my list is Jim Kelly. The man went to 4 Super Bowls, and he's a Hall of Famer. The best second place finisher ever. So second on my list is Andre Reed. I don't really know why, but he's there. Third on my list is O.J. Simpson, because the man could cut and run. I know that's a joke no one's ever said. But I've watched old videos of O.J., and he's pretty unreal.
There's one video we all want to know, though.
Yeah.
Want to see.
Well, I remember this one video. He came from a seated position, stood up, and then he moved really quickly around these 2 other people and started putting on this glove. Thought I was going to say something else, didn't you?
Yeah, thought he was gonna just slash and burn, huh?
Yeah. OJ's had a rough few years, but
Things are looking up for him.
maybe one day he'll find Nicole's killer.
Yeah.
So go ahead with yours.
Okay, well, my top 3 start with Jim Kelly. Led them to 4 straight Super Bowls. Of course, didn't win, but still, that's still something nobody else has ever done. And he was just the absolute leader of that team for that long. He got drafted first pick in the USFL, played there, was a winner there, and then went to Buffalo and started there, and just was a dominant, a Hall of Famer. Next on my list is Thurman Thomas, running back. About the same time, or while Jim Kelly was there, 12,000 rushing yards. He was the NFL MVP one time, and made the '90s All-Decade team. Just a dominant running back in that era. And then Bruce Smith is my third. 19 years in the NFL, 200 sacks. Just a leader on the defensive line, Hall of Famer. Just what can you say about how good he was on the defensive line? There were a lot of the Bills were kind of tough because there were so many players throughout the '90s on defense. Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley, offense. You said Andre Reed, just guys like that, James Lofton, guys that were just.
Don Beebe.
Don Beebe is the top man. He's one of the fastest guys in the NFL from being that little guy.
Leon Lett knows that.
Leon Lett got chased down by little Don Beebe.
Yeah, too bad it was like 52-17.
Well, Don Beebe did win a Super Bowl with the Packers, though.
Oh, well, there you go. See, look at all your football knowledge.
That's all I have in
That's
my head.
good.
Is football knowledge.
Okay. All right. Well, oh wait, you still have.
I named
Say all of them?
I named all three: Kelly, Thomas, and Bruce.
Yeah. So I should have been listening.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on the list there is Miami Dolphins. So Troy, who are your three Miami people?
Miami Dolphins. They're another one that you've got. They're winning Super Bowls in the '70s, and going undefeated in '72. But you look at their players, and you're like, man, I don't even know who any of those people are. I don't know anybody on that defense. But I had an honorable mention. I'll start with him from the '70s era. Was Larry Zonka, three-time first-team All-Pro. He was a Super Bowl MVP. Just one of those hard-nosed runners, and I really knew Larry Zonka from American Gladiators, announcing American Gladiators before I even knew he was a football player. So that was one of those things. That's why I just remembered him so much. So that's why he's one of my honorable mentions.
I knew Larry Zonka because he used to work at Panera Bread on Dowling, and they fired him because he just wasn't really good at it. But he was there.
He had yeasty fingers.
Yes.
All right. So my number one in the Miami Dolphins top three is Dan Marino. He had all the passing records, touchdowns, yardage, up until Brett Favre passed him for all that. So 61,000 yards, 420 touchdowns. Just that's incredible. Never won a Super Bowl, but he went to one. He's one of those ones, the best that never got there, never won one.
Do you get the feeling that he's kind of stupid? When I hear him speak, I feel like he might be dumb.
Well, watching one of those 30 for 30s, apparently he had a big cocaine problem or something, but nobody really. It was
didn't
weird.
know that.
Yeah, it was. I don't know.
For some reason, that's really funny.
I don't know if that was true or not, but I think that was one of the worries about him. Like he hung out with a crowd that was dabbled into drugs.
Okay.
So I don't know, but there he is. That's Dan Marino. So maybe he's dumb. I don't know.
Okay.
My number two, which I took this one. I really stretched for this one, but I still think he's one of the best players in Dolphins history. Zach Thomas, linebacker, 5-time first-team All-Pro, the 2000s All-Decade team. Just a defensive force for that team in the middle for many years. And then number three was Jason Taylor, 3-time All-Pro, the NFL Defensive MVP one year, and then 2000s All-Decade team, and he's a Hall of Famer as well. So for a team that had so much offense throughout their history, two of my top three guys are defensive players.
All right. Well, my three are two of them you've already said, Dan Marino and Jason Taylor. So you've already talked about them, and also you do better research than I do. My other one was Bob Greasy because he was part of the he was a quarterback for their undefeated season. So I feel like somebody needs to say, throw the man a bone, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
So there you go. All right, the next one up is the Jets, and
when you try to do research on the Jets, you realize, God, they are not very good. They've never
this is
been
one of the
very good.
this is one of the only teams that, to me, you're almost better not doing research and just thinking about Jets you like. So that's kind of where I went with this.
Yep.
And I was like, who do I think of on the Jets that's good? So where I went with that was my my top three were Darrelle Revis. I mean, you don't become a cornerback and have something called an island named after you if you weren't really good. So I'll give Darrelle Revis that. Also, doesn't he have like 14 children in like 8 different states or something?
No, that's Antonio Cromartie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Darrell Revis.
Well, let's not hold it.
Well,
Let's not sell him short.
He
He's
might.
still
Okay,
fine.
sorry. See, this is what I know about Jets
Yeah.
people is they just have
Yeah,
baggage.
they cross lines.
Hey, get that Jets baggage. It's pretty good.
Hey.
Yeah. All right. Next is Keyshawn Johnson because I don't know. He makes me think of a Jets receiver, and nobody else can do that for me. So
I thought you were gonna say because he played on the Cowboys.
no, I don't care about that.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't really care that people played on the Cowboys. I mean, liking players that played on your team is silly.
Well, that's what everyone else around this area thinks. So that's why I was
No.
just
No,
lumping you in with everyone else.
No, I think of him as a Buccaneer, really. But So third up is Vinny Testaverde. I've always liked Vinny a lot. I always thought he was a kind of a different kind of quarterback. He was just an ox. He's just a giant human, and I had read at some point that after he would play a game, the Monday after the Sunday game, when I think everyone else was recuperating or whatever, he would go and do a real light set of or light squat sets. He would do 4 sets of 10 with 405 just to kind of get everything worked out. It's a pretty amazing athlete to go and after your Sunday of NFL football to go throw 405 on there and then squat it a few times and be like, yeah, I feel a little bit better now.
I thought you were gonna say something about him plowing a field or something since he's an ox.
No, he never did that.
Well, he played into his 40s. He played for a long time, so he was very had a lot of
He
longevity.
played in the tournament last weekend.
He did.
Yeah.
That's why we went 0-4.
Changed his name. He changed his name to Matt Cagle, and he was out there doing really well.
Damn it.
Yeah. Somewhere right now today, Matt Cagle's doing squats with 405. It's like kind of working it out,
It makes me hurt just looking at 405.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
My
what are
top
yours? 3,
and I did the same thing as you. Was go with players that I liked more than anything. Players that were put up a lot of stats. Well, the first guy, Curtis Martin, put up a lot of stats. He's one of my favorite running backs of all time. 14,000 rushing yards, 90 touchdowns, Hall of Famer. Just was a leader of that team in the 2000s. Number 2, guy who didn't have a lot of, didn't put up a lot of stats, but had a pretty good career for the couple teams he played for. Chad Pennington. I liked him as a quarterback. I thought he was a good quarterback. He was a 2-time comeback player of the year. That's pretty good. It means you were good. You got hurt. You came back, and got better, or got hurt again, came back. So I thought that was pretty good. And he was just a leader of that team as well. And then
who has never been the comeback player of the year? Tom Brady.
Well, he wasn't after the year he got hurt. Though.
I don't think they give him awards.
No, just rings. They give him rings.
Yeah,
Well, whatever. And then my last is Joe Namath, just because of the more of the style of the Broadway Joe, the wearing fur coats on the sidelines and things like that. Not because he didn't put. If you look at his stats, it's really ordinary, very boring. He just won a big Super Bowl one time and guaranteed the win, and that's what he's really known for. Not as a great football player, but as a showman.
Younger people know him as the guy who tried to kiss Susie Culver.
Yeah, he did drunkenly. I want to kiss you
That was
now.
That's the Willie Joe Namath I know.
That's him.
Well, all right. Well, so next week we'll do a different division. Once again, if anyone listens to this and you want to throw in your 2 cents and tell us your favorite players of any of these teams, go ahead and post it on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll address it. In fact, if you want to say anything, if you want any comments or questions, just anything at all, if you want to be a guest on our show, I know that I should probably say this at the end of the show, but since we're here right now, just let us know. We'll talk to you. We are very non-snobby.
I would love to talk to anyone else right now about this show.
Just one more person to talk to. All right. Well, on the next segment, we'll talk about the next thing we have going on next weekend with the First Responders Tournament. So stick around.
First pub we could stagger to was 12 steps from the plane. A Virgin flight to Shannontown the day it didn't rain. The laughing eyes of Ireland, sparkling blue and green, with hair as black as Guinness Stout and barely 17. We're back out on the cobblestones, whiskey drunk and high again, liquored up and gearing up for 7 nights in Ireland.
All right. welcome back to Amateur Hour for our third and final segment, excluding the bonus segment, if any of you care to listen at the very end. In this one, we'll just kind of go over what we have going this Sunday, which is the Football is Coming 3 First Responders Division Tournament. It's going to be held at Lumberton High School at their really nice new field that's artificial grass, and we really hope we have a good turnout, because all of the proceeds we get, any donations we get, will go to the 100 Club of Southeast Texas. If you guys are listening don't know what that organization's about, when a policeman or a firefighter or an EMT is killed in the line of duty, the 100 Club will go and do things for their family. I think each family, I could be wrong now, it's been a long time since I've talked to them, but I think they get a check immediately for $50,000. So, you know, if any of you have had a loved one that's died, you know how difficult it is to get the funeral and get everything going, and, you know, just pay for things in their absence. So that organization is solely there for first responders, and we really appreciate them. So I hope that, you know, that we have some people come out and support us. So Troy, are you going to be there this weekend?
I will be there. I am scheduled to be one of the referees for the tournament, which I was a part of last year as well, and I'm honored to be there to officiate the games for everybody, for the guys.
Well, we appreciate it. And this year, the 3 teams we have, or I'm sorry, we might have 4 this year. So the ones we have for sure at this point are Beaumont Police Department. So they have so far not won one of these tournaments, but I know those guys are ready to go. So, you know, we got Robert Gerard, who plays in our league. He's on the Expendables, and Darren Wilkerson also plays with them. Matthew Snore. There's several that, you know, play in our league, and they're going to be on the BPD team. So I know they're looking forward to it, looking forward to winning a game. The next team we have are the Orange Firefighters from the city of Orange. Their team captain is Aaron Long, who also plays on the herd. Aaron's a firefighter, and those guys, they have a lot of good athletes on that team. Aaron's had some of his guys that he works with play with us before, and they're all very athletic, and they didn't play last year, but they played the year before last, and they came really close to winning the whole thing. So the third team we have for sure is a team called RTFC, and that is a firefighters from one of the chemical plants, and their team captain is Michael Peavy. He plays on the Showstoppers, who are just the most swell guys, those Showstoppers, you know, especially Michael Peavy. But I know Peavy told me that he has a good team going this year, so it should be a pretty good time. Now, Beaumont Fire Department are the 2-time defending champions of this tournament we have going on here, and they're trying to field a team, but they have different shifts, and they're trying to make sure that they have enough guys to be there. But if they're there, then we'll have them as well. So hopefully we'll have 4 teams. We might have 3, but either way, you'll get to see a bunch of out of shape cops and firemen run around and make a fool of themselves.
It's one of the most fun tournaments that we get to put on, because a lot of these guys, they get to practice a little bit. They don't get to practice a lot. They don't get to play a lot because of their work schedules, obviously. But when they get out there, they have a good time, and you can tell they're having fun. But you can tell they're getting wore out pretty quick, because especially during the summertime, it gets hot, and boy, it's a lot of running up and down the field for those guys. And it's just fun to watch them because they're having a good time. Everybody's the most encouraging people you see out there is they're having a good time with each other. There's not a lot of yelling at each other like in the other tournaments that we put on. So it's just fun to watch and see how everything goes. And I enjoy being out there and helping these guys, and it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing we do throughout the year. You know, so I like seeing people that don't normally get to play flag football come out there and do it. It's just so different to me. And plus, when I get to play, I'm, you know, a little bit better than I normally am. But it's a good time. So, you know, this last segment's going to be pretty short, but we at least wanted to kind of plug it a little bit. Troy's going to be on the news, on KVMT News, this Friday with Vanessa Holmes. and Holly Hebert, who's always helped with all this. Holly is the sister of an officer from Beaumont that lost his life a few years ago, Brian Hebert, and Holly always helps us with this tournament, helps us get sponsors. This year our sponsor is Gulf Credit Union. They helped us, or actually they paid for the field for us to use it, and those guys are awesome. So a big shout out to Gulf Credit Union, Troy and Holly will be on the news on Friday, wearing their best clothing, talking to Vanessa Holmes, and so look for them on there. So that'll be the tournament this weekend. Troy, you have anything else on that?
No, just everybody come out and have a good time and support your local first responders.
All right. Well, if you want the bonus segment, stay tuned. If you don't, go right to hell. Have a good day. Bonus segment here today, and we're going to try something a little different. We're going to actually take a phone call. We have a caller on the line right now, believe it or not. So Troy, you ready to take a phone call and see what this guy has to say?
I'm excited. This is our first actual phone call we've ever gotten.
It's amazing that he's calling and this is pre-recorded. So okay, caller, I think it's Bill. Bill, you're on the line.
Yeah. This is Bill Peterson. I came by y'all's field the other day, and there was a bunch of grown men running around some little kiddie field. So I stopped my car and I says, Bill Peterson, you gotta go put a stop to all this stuff going on. So Bill Peterson, that's me, walked up on in there and I talked to some little blonde boy. So which one of you little hoosits is a blonde boy?
Mr. Peterson, that's probably me. I'm Troy Maddox.
Well, Troy Maddox, this is Bill Peterson. Now look, I hadn't been married to Mary Peterson for 46 years and not learned a thing or two about talking to little blonde boys like yourself. Next time I come up in there and I tell you this is a boys' field for little boys and girls to cheerlead and football in, then you...
Are you okay, Mr. Peterson?
You don't, Troy Maddox, you don't talk. This is Bill Peterson. Now look, I didn't go to Lumberton High School in 1942. Class of 48 took me longer than I thought, but Bill Peterson didn't study like he should have. I didn't go and mow them fields and shovel them snows to watch a bunch of grown men take advantage of a little boy's field. Now don't you feel shamed, boy?
No, sir, I do not. Our organization brings in a lot of money to the city of Lumberton and to the school district.
Well, the city of Lumberton charges Bill Peterson, that's me, Bill Peterson, charges Bill Peterson taxes to ship all my poo-poo out of my house. They call it sewage, but I can crap in the woods just like a bear. So, what do you have to say about that, Mr. Troy Maddox?
Well, Mr. Bill Peterson, is it?
This is Bill Peterson.
Well, Mr. Peterson, I think you've probably got a little confusion going on there because we're not paying the taxes. We're not going through anything in your sewage. We're not getting rid of that. We're just...
I don't want my sewage gotten rid of. I want to shit in the woods like I used to. But they make me shit in toilets, telling Bill Peterson where he can shit. Grown man shit anywhere. The only place I want is on that field because we spread that dirt 2 weeks ago. So you would.
Well, speaking of that dirt, sir, yeah, I wouldn't be too proud of that, sir. We had to spend about 2 or 3 hours just throwing off all the clay clumps off the field. So
you stupid son of a bitch! Them weren't clay clumps. Them was ostrich eggs. We's gonna have an ostrich farm on that field in the next 2 weeks. But y'all go on out there and play in your adult flag football league, and the baby ostriches are separated from their nesting mothers, and Bill Peterson's got to go collect them again.
Well,
boy.
I sure hope that the children weren't going to mess up that field with the ostrich eggs. That you want the children to play on that field so bad.
Everybody knows that children's cleats and ostrich eggs mixing for centuries. Children's cleats knock on the eggs, and then the eggs start to hatch at the right times. That's why you plant ostrich eggs on a football field. Don't you know nothing, you little motherfucker?
Mr. Peterson, that's just uncalled for. I thank you for the lesson on the ostrich eggs.
Ostrich eggs and Little League football go together like cream and fried eggs. I know a lot about eggs.
So are you
Bill Peterson.
more upset about the adults on the field, or are you upset about the ostrich eggs?
Now listen, I'm here to ask the questions. You're here to answer it. I didn't call in 2 days before this thing came out on my own. This is Bill Peterson. What I'm trying to tell you is, my little grandbabies, Gerald Peterson, Marley McKinsky, yeah, her mama married a and Billy Bull. They don't go out there to just hum and dum around while y'all muddy up the field. They have business to take care of, and it's Little League football, which is important. Them ostrich eggs were there a long time, and y'all unnested them, and I gotta go plant them again. So you tell me when I'm supposed to get my ostriches.
Well, sir, I think that's going to be something you're going to have to figure out with your ostrich eggs. I don't know the birthing cycle of your ostrich.
Trump! I'll go to the President Trump, and I will tell him what you've done here today, because I built that press box with my own hands. Bill Peterson built it. Mary Peterson watched him build it, and Gerald McCoy saw the building of it because he was the contractor that bought most of the material. And Timothy McDaniels, the old boy down there at Orange County Building Supply, was the clerk who sold the supplies. So you tell me how I'm supposed to sit here and watch a bunch of adults tear all that up.
That's another thing, building that press box I wouldn't be too proud of there, sir.
Bill Peterson put enough nails in them boards for people to walk on and stub their toes, because everybody knows when you stub a toe, an ostrich gets its wings. So every stubbed toe makes them little eggs hatch. Look, boy, Mr. Troy Maddox, you with your little blonde hair and your flag football adult league, that field is there for ostriches. It's there for ostrich eggs, and children and stubbed toes are what make ostriches hatch. Everybody knows that, even dogs.
Well, I feel like we're in agreement then. We've got to the bottom of this.
All right. Well, this is Bill Peterson. I guess I'll...
Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson.
Hello? I think we lost him. Hey, he's gone.
I'm glad
sorry.
we have such great local support.
Yeah, so that was the caller we had. I'm sorry I didn't have much to say to him. He seemed like he wanted to talk to Troy, though. So, all right. Well, if anybody else wants to call in one day, just kind of try to time it right so that you're calling 2.5 days before the show takes place, and we'll talk to you sort of like live. Actually, it'll be live if you call at that time. Troy, anything else?
Look at the phone lines lighting up.
No, they're just lighting up right now. Well, we don't have any time for another caller, so till next time, y'all have a good day.
Good luck.